By now, I think it's very apparent, if you haven't looked back at the previous villains, for instance, Part 3, Part 4, and now Part 5's villains, it's clear that there is a theme going on, at the very least with their stand powers. They all are, in some way, time-related, and let's look for all of it. The World, Dio's stand, was a stand that allowed Dio to stop time and move freely throughout, while time was stopped. And basically, as he continued to use this stand, he was reaching a point where he would become invincible. He could stop time for as long as he wanted. That was pretty much what was happening at the end of Part 3. Dio was a big threat. The only reason Dio went down at the end of Part 3 was thanks to Jotaro having a stand Star Platinum that was able to have the exact same ability as Dio. If it wasn't for that luck and Dio's bad luck, then Dio probably would have been invincible. There would be no way you could have brought him down. Let's fast forward to Part 4. Part 4, Kira. He had an ability, Bites the Dust, that allowed him to legit reset time, rewind time, and he was pretty much immortal. It was unbeatable. And the only reason he lost was because, once again, kind of a similar theme to Dio, he got cocky. He got cocky, which in turn made it to where he lost in the end. And so, that was one thing we learned. And now, with Part 5, we are introduced to King Crimson. King Crimson is a stand that is somehow able to erase time. It just works like that. So the point is that there is a theme, and anyone that thinks whoa, you're spoiling or whatever, oh, you're talking about time or whatever, it was kind of talked about in this, episode towards the end, but also it's a theme. It's an obvious theme that's been happening since Part 3. But okay, with that being said, let's talk about that cliffhanger. Chills. Major freaking chills with what happened to Bruno. Holy crap. That is a brutal cliffhanger. Seeing Bruno impaled like that and King Crimson behind him talking, it's scary. It's super scary because Bruno as a character, you would think you might have some plot armor, but then this episode reminds you that JoJo doesn't really have plot armor. Characters can die. We've seen this since Part 1. Since Speedwagon, and then Caesar in Part 2, and, it carries on. We know that there isn't plot armor. Some characters can survive insane ordeals, but overall, characters can die, which really mixes things up. You never know if a character will make it out of a given situation, thanks to how Araki handles stuff like this. So seeing what happened to Bruno, it's unsettling, because it's very reminiscent to what happened to Kakyoin in Part 3. If you remember in Part 3, the man was straight up impelled by Dio, and that's kind of what just happened to Bruno. He was impelled, and the man, let's just say, he's not doing too good. He's missing a whole lot of organs down below, and he's probably not going to be able to survive long. He's going to bleed out. And when you factor in that Giorno is technically not in the building, then it makes matters a lot worse. Because we do know that Giorno is capable of healing people. He is capable of bringing organs back and stuff for individuals, but it doesn't stop the fact that Giorno is a far ways away. Yes, he's on the island, on the boat, but he still has to get on the island, go up the tower, or go down the tower, whatever, just to get to where Bruno is. So it's still a lot of walking, and if you give or take about how bad the wound is on Bruno, it's not something that is a minor wound. It's not just like a regular gunshot or something that can miss vital organs. It's a straight up hole through your back, out your chest, basically getting impelled. It's not good. It's a really savage wound. You're gonna bleed out probably in a minute or two. It's not gonna be a slow death. So that's the point here, is that will someone make it in time, or is it already too late because of what just happened to Bruno and how much damage he actually just took? Which, by the way, let's talk about Bruno. Bruno was a big focus of this episode. We got his backstory and why he's done what he's done since the very start of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 5. Because ever since the beginning, we knew that he didn't really like how children were being brought into the stuff with the organization. He didn't like how they were, getting constantly harmed while their organization flourished and got, wealthy or whatever. He didn't like it. And this was established very early on. We just didn't understand the whole reasoning to why he came to this. Was it just because he loved children so much, or did something else really happen? And this episode reveals that. It reveals that Bruno, as a child, he had a normal family. He was someone that wasn't really in a wealthy family or anything like that. He had a mother, father that loved him very deeply. And he was helping his father out with fishing and all that, placing nets. He was just doing anything he can to get by. He was, in a lot of ways, having a comfortable life. It wasn't a perfect life, but it was comfortable and he was happy. Both of his parents were happy, everything. Time passes, fast forward through time, and apparently his parents come to a disagreement and they want a divorce. And this entire scene is very real. Stuff like this happens. It's happened even for me. It's real. It's some real stuff here. And I felt very, very emotional watching this. Because the whole concept of having to choose a parent to be with is something no child really should have to do. And seeing Bruno come to the decision of what he needed to do, it's sad. Because he's like, Mom is strong. I love her. It's clear that Bruno loved his mom. He was a mama's boy, and he feels like, or if he was a spoiled boy completely, he probably would have went with his mom. But because of just how he loved his parents, both parents, and he had a good life, he picked his dad because he knew his mom is fine. She'd be strong, everything would work out for her, but his father was very weak. He was someone that needed someone. He was someone that wouldn't really last long if he didn't have anyone side by side him. And so that's why Bruno decided to stay behind with his father, even though it hurt him in the end and he wasn't able to get probably the education he wanted. He still stayed behind for his father to help him out because his father needed him. He felt like if he wasn't there, something bad would happen to his father. So I can understand that, and it makes me very emotional for what decision Bruno had to make. And like I said, it's realistic. This happens. That happens in real life all the time. And when he does decide that, he helps out his father. And his father, wanting to do good for his son, help his son out, he decides to take as many jobs as possible to be able to work up the money for he could send his child to school. And that's the thing here. He feels guilty because he realizes his child sacrificed his future for him. He was very aware of this, and so he wanted to do something for his child, so he did jobs. And after a lot of times or working up money, saving money to get money to send his child to school, eventually 2 bad eggs come in, and they hurt Bruno's father. Bruno's father put into the hospital, and Bruno instantly realizes what he lost. His father was very kind, and the reason why his father was hurt was thanks to the drugs that the organization was selling. And instantly, he wanted to just be completely done with that. He was so upset, disgusted, that he never wanted to see it again. And so he quickly ended 2 individuals that were trying to harm his father, and he swore to protect his father ever since then. And obviously his father never really got better. He was still hospitalized, being protected by the organization, but overall he never really fully recovered. He was always in the hospital and Bruno watched over him. Fast forward a little bit longer, Bruno's father dies, and Bruno eventually finds out that the things that caused the whole conflict with his father was what the very organization was selling, the organization he was working for, which kind of ruined his faith in the entire organization, because he always viewed them as the side of justice. And as soon as he realized what they were doing and how they were harming kids and, creating people probably very similar to Bruno, he hated the organization. But he didn't completely disregard it because there was some good things about it and he thought he could change things. Then we fast forward to this episode. Present time. After what just happened to Trish, it set him over the edge because it reminded him of his situation with his father. And the very boss that he was working for disregarded his own child, didn't care for his own child, which means he didn't really care about children or anyone. He just cared about his own selfish desires and stuff. And so he was hurt. And his very pride didn't just get hurt once, but 2 times in a row after what happened to him and his father. So it makes sense why Bruno would come to that decision to do what he did. It fits in line with his character, why he would help out Giorno, but why he would attack, the boss, King Crimson, at that, because of everything that was established. But here's the big part about it. The big part is that Bruno, he made a risky gamble. And he thought he had the upper hand, that he could take down King Crimson, the boss. Obviously, kind of find out it wasn't, and he got impelled. It's sad what happened to him, because he's such a good character. In a lot of ways, you could say Bruno is, like, the main character of the story. I mean, I know each JoJo is, but Bruno is a really important character since the very beginning. He's been leading the group, and so seeing what happens to him it's very sad. And I think many are probably going to get very emotional after this episode while waiting for the next episode to come out. It cannot come any quicker, honestly. I really hope or wish I could, like, skip till next week to see the next episodes. Like, I want to see JoJo, and I want to also see Mob Psycho, because there's just some really good stuff that's been going on. But I think I want to end it at that. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, how you felt about this episode. How'd you feel about King Crimson's introduction? How do you feel about the stand power? How do you feel about what happened to Bruno and his backstory? Be honest in the comments below. And with that, I love you guys. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below. And with that, Chibi out.